Good morning. So I'm going over Dark Age of Man Chronicle Session 1, going over my notes and things, preparing. So again, we play Dark Age of Man as a naive narrator, which means we're not supposed to know and be omniscient about everything. We do need to be aware of as well as the character. So I thought I would make this video as kind of a reminder for everybody in the group since it's been a while. It was we were supposed to go once a month, but I've had some things that mess my schedule up. So I'll go ahead and just talk about the reminder. So Dark Age of Man Chronicle Session 2, the title is A Great Divide. The setup, it is a cold winter, of course. The famine is eased thanks to the work of both Sylvester and Ethelwold in the last session. They actually earned repute for easing the famine a number of ways, both by slaying the wolves and handing out that meat, by capturing a wagon load of food that belonged to an enemy force, a pagan force that is amassing that Sylvester acquired as, and of course, Ethelwold committed in the middle of the night in the town village center of Dredgewater, committed a miracle, a minor miracle, feeding every peasant and every person that came to him in the village, fed him and actually performed a miracle with a dice roll, a hard dice roll. It was great. And of course, that's affected Ethelwold for the next 2 days, 48 hours. Falcone is accusing Ethelwold of being a false prophet, denying the miracle, accusing Ethelwold of paying peasants to spread lies. Known pagans are leaving Dredgewater, abandoning the village because they're under constant threat from Lord Washburn, and he is committed to stopping the pagans, and it's creating a greater divide. So many pagans are abandoning Dredgewater and the surrounding area for fear for their lives, ultimately. Mort's men amass and camp along the southern border of Washburn lands, the Dredgewater. It's not completely, that is not completely out of the norm, as very often Mort is toying and messing around with Washburn and his peoples. But this is a little more organized. Ethelwold is commanded to escort Sarah and Nola to the Howardtown convent, as she wants to see both these girls who had been kidnapped by a druid. If you all remember in my local session, these are the girls that were kidnapped, that were rescued by Katie and Brian and Phil and Josh, Sarah and Nola. And she's basically, they've been staying there at the manse with the Beatrice, their ward, but now she's saying they must be sent to the convent. We want them definitely, as they are orphans and peasants. So she wants Ethelwold to escort them to Bishop Jeremiah. And then, of course, Falcone would continue to lord over Dredgewater in your absence. Lord Washburn orders the capture of Pete's accomplices, and has ordered that Peen's accomplishments. Remember, Peen was the spy who aided the druid and helped capture the girls and tried to thwart the rescue. And Peen was brought back. This was all local session 1 characters in Fallout. Peen's accomplices, he wants them captured, and he's ordered the execution of Peen at midday today. He will be drawn and quartered in public, to the delight of all of the board, peasants, and certainly the Christian peasants want to see this pagan druid minion dealt with. So the inciting incident, this of course is meant to be known by the players. Peen's public execution happens at midday today, and of course we're going to begin the game earlier in the morning, at probably 10 a.m. in the morning or so. Give everybody a chance to set their characters in space. It gives Brian as Sylvester a chance to put Grant in front of Ethelwold, and it gives me a chance to explain to Ethelwold what's been happening to him, and it gives Sylvester a chance to report to Lord Washburn those kind of things. And of course, Vidar, most likely under these conditions, Dell will be free to tell me what Vidar's been doing over the last 2 days. So we're going to assume that 2 days have passed as, again, they continue to feed people from the wagon and Sylvester continues with his duties, etc. Grant Ethelwald has been overwhelmed by mere peasants who have come to him, and they will not let him sleep. So Ethelwald will start the session, Sam. You'll know, so you know this, Sam. You start the session battered, as you have not been able to sleep for 2 days, as it has been a line of peasants asking you to pray over their cattle, over their children, over themselves, over the, whatever. They all believe you are a prophet and a miracle worker now. So your character will have been up 2 days, and he will be battered as an actual injury. And it may negatively affect certain options that your character has if you don't get rest. So that's kind of how it'll start. Sylvester will receive, of course, this is the inciting incident and where you're at. A reminder to me mostly, but also I'll go ahead and tell the you guys this too. We're supposed to use the highest bonus added to your attribute for all rolls, not stacking the bonuses. So if you're going to use, let's say you're in combat and you're going to use your dogs. Let's say you have an excellent sword that's +2, or let's say you have a good sword that's +1, but you have your 2 wolfhounds. They are 2. You don't get 3. You get the 2 wolfhounds. You can narrate it any way you want, but we would use the +2 of the hounds. So each hound is a +1, so it'd be +2. So you wouldn't add your sword and your hounds. Same thing again for Sam. If you're performing a miracle and you have an excellent staff, you would get the highest bonus, which would be, let's say, the excellent staff, excellent rod, or whatever you might be using, or your holy symbol +2, whatever. So I realized in the first session I was stacking bonuses, and that's something we don't want to do. That's in the rules. You're supposed to get the highest bonus. Okay. Or I can lower difficulty as a secondary bonus. So you would get your +2, and I might actually lower it depending on what's happening. Right. Okay. So that's it. That's more of an administrative rule thing that I had lost. I mean, you get caught up in this amazing narrative, and before you know it, we're adding too many bonuses. Okay. So now, in a way, a recap. I'm going to try this the best I can. I'm going to see if I can remember this recap best I can. So the game starts. Dell places himself burying basically a funeral pyre of his dead wife and child. He is utterly distraught in mourning, and has ultimately losing faith in the Christian way. He had been a pagan Viking turned farmer, was trusting Falcone in the belief that if you follow God and the Christian way, everything will go well, and it didn't. The flooded banks of the Dredgewater ultimately cost you your family. So Dell starts off the session that way. Of course, Sam, as Ethelwald and his companion, his young teenage companion, Henry, his assistant, arrive at a freezing Dredgewater, which is suffering a biblical flood and famine, so to speak. They're set upon by wolves. Sylvester is doing his normal morning rounds, as in a way he is a soldier. He's a scout / warden of Washburn's army, so to speak, and he has scouts under him, younger scouts, and they all engage these wolves. They dispatch these wolves. Sylvester feeds, has them butchered, and distributes them to the people who helped them fight the wolves. Vidar is gravely wounded. I mean, literally one more wound and Vidar would have been dead. So they take him into the Father Falcone, and he's being nursed through the day and the night. And Sam, of course, visits the church, meets Falcone, and then Sam, of course, heads up to introduce himself to Lord and Lady Washburn. Sylvester investigates, ordered by John, the man-at-arms. He is his captain. He is basically over him. He is Washburn's, man-at-arms. So he's the boss of the whole army, so to speak, the general. Tells Sylvester to investigate some issues at Dredgewater Downs, which is a small little crossroads with a church and an inn, or an arms, which is an inn with some bedrooms, that he's heard there may be a pagan band, revolters, etc., whatever. He heads out to investigate this. Vidar awakens after healing up a little bit, and in the middle of the night stumbles out into Dredgewater, bumps into a band of rowdy vigilantes who every night go out and do what Washburn has basically insisted: uh, uh, deal with poachers and criminals and outlaws by hanging or by killing. So Washburn has created a very dangerous situation as he's trying to deal with criminals, and he's trying to deal with poachers, and he's trying to deal with pagans, as Washburn is slowly losing his mind, slowly deranged, and becoming more and more afraid of the pagan Christian, and he's terrified of a revolt from all of his peasants. So that kind of sets this tone. He takes command of this little vigilante army, and he runs into Sylvester. Sylvester finds out about Jarek, a druid, a pagan druid who has come to protect the pagans, and he has brought with him an army. Sylvester learns that army is also in cahoots with their arch enemy in the south, Von Mort, and he has captured a wagon loaded with food that he has distributed to Dredgewater and is giving out to the peasants. Ethelwold dines with Washburn, Lord Washburn. Lady Washburn's not available. He doesn't. He hasn't met Lady Washburn yet. Dines, takes some food from the table, apples and bread and cheese and things, and goes down to Dredgewater, headed back to the church to sleep. And he gets to the middle of Dredgewater and he prays and he starts handing out the food. And he creates a miracle in which the food is endless. Everybody who needs to be fed that walks up to him and pulls and takes and gets, and he ultimately comes out of this meditative miracle trance and finds all of these peasants around him on the ground, kneeling and eating, and some curled up and sleeping, etc. He's committed this miracle, fed every person that was available, that was there. And Sylvester, of course, orders everything brought back to Dredgewater. Vidar has decided with his vigilantes that Sylvester may be the man to follow. He may be the man with the answers, as he has taken authority and he's done positive things. Vidar has witnessed actions, not talk, and that's kind of where we're at. So we have a couple of interesting issues. Ethelwold has created a miracle which is going to overwhelm his character with peasants who want constant prayers and they want miracles. So that's affected Ethelwald. We haven't talked about that yet in session, but over this next 48 hours, this is going to be what Ethelwald's been contending with: is a constant stream of peasants who need prayer and they want to touch him and they want him to bless them, etc. Henry will be running around ragged, trying to organize and keep it all straight. Meanwhile, we have Sylvester, who is conducting business, but also has this, how do we say, traitor in his custody named Grant that he's agreed won't turn him in, but Grant needs to meet Ethelwold, so we're going to have to deal with that. And then, of course, Vidar, in a way, we don't know so much what Vidar's been doing over the last 48 hours, right? And then, of course, that's so we'll start session. I will allow first. I will explain, I will make clear to Sam the condition he's in and what has been transpiring for him for the last 48 hours. Then, of course, Brian, I'll ask Brian to put himself in the fiction somewhere in this last, few minutes. And then, of course, we'll go to Dell for the third introduction. And again, the nature of being in the naive narrator presenter seat is our goal is to give the players lots of effect of where their characters out in the world, what their characters about, what their characters been doing, etc. So I like to let players put themselves in the fiction, in the scene, in the world. They have a lot of options and freedom to conduct player agency, to have really lots of agency. And then we use what we call the random seed generator. We use what we already know. We all agree and know the world. We know what's happening with Washburn. We know what's going on around the world in this immediate vicinity. And so that, because we all are in a way aware of the game. There's a meta understanding that we all have the same information. What they don't know is what I'm going to roll on that chart that could affect the world around them in numerous ways. And I don't know, which is what's so fun about it, right? So their actions have consequences and create conflict, and the things they do matter. And then there are things that show up that could triage what's happening, etc. And it's so fun. It creates more conflict or more decision making. And that's how we role play. That's how Dark Age of Man is meant to be played. And it is liberating, and it is incredibly fun. And I made a video a few years ago on Facebook about Nash's Equilibrium, about gaming. And for a game to exist, there has to be a zero-sum outcome. But there has to be an equality of understanding. So for us to play tic-tac-toe, I need to know the rules. You need to know the rules. And we both need to recognize there is a potential strategy that I could utilize to try to win at tic-tac-toe. Now, it's a zero-sum outcome. Is anybody who's understands tic-tac-toe, there will never be a winner. But what that thesis implies is all the players at the table have the same information. Well, in role-playing, what makes role-playing, and I've argued this before, to me, role-playing is not a game. And it's not a game because one of the major players at the table, the GM, the Dungeon Master, knows everything and knows where the beast is in the room and where the trap is. So he has an undue advantage, which means it's not a game, so to speak. And this has been one of the things that I think why every rule book says role-playing is not a game you win. That's why there's this whole thing. So Dark Age of Man, in a way, says, okay, I'm going to have still, I am the judge and the arbitrator. I still make those decisions. You have to have somebody who's in control of the truth and control of the fiction to some degree. But we try to create a seat where the GM is a player almost as much as the players themselves. And the only thing I'm omniscient about is what's in that's potentially could show up. And I have, my job is to continue to bring these live variables into session, which keep the world alive and keep the players on their toes and create a world in which the players are ultimately facing. So it's still not traditional gaming in the sense that we're all equal. They all know exactly what I know, right? That would be board gaming, poker, those things, right? We all understand the poker. We all understand how the game's played. Now, am I bluffing? Am I lying? What do I have in my hand? What cards am I drawing? What's my strategy? Do I sit on two jacks? Right? That's not zero-sum gaming, but it's equal at the start, but it's not zero-sum based on some luck and based on some strategy and tactics. Well, role-playing tends to lack those things, right? Now, granted, Pathfinder attempts with maps and minis to say to the players, okay, I've set up the combat scenario. You guys know you're up against 6 wolves. You may or may not know the wolves' abilities, etc. But then the combat portion of Pathfinder becomes a game, the GM. But all the fact that those wolves were in the woods, the GM was aware of and was ready to ambush them. They weren't aware of it. So it's not traditional gaming. And so Nash's Equilibrium states for it to be a game, we all have to be at equal level. And then there's got to be strategies, even if they're simple rock, paper, scissors strategies that can be employed for me to try to gain advantage to win the game. But if everything is perfect, it will be a zero-sum tic-tac-toe, boom, right? So this is why role-playing, I've always argued, is traditionally, it's not a game, right? Okay. So, but it is. I mean, it's social, it's a game, but it's not a game in the fact that it's all the players have a chance to win the game kind of thing, right? Okay. So Dark Age of Man just puts the players really on a pretty equal footing with the GM. The GM is still charged with knowing the world in some ways, etc. But ultimately, we're not supposed to have all the answers. We're not supposed to know exactly how Washburn will respond to Sylvester. There's a lot of improvisational gaming going on here. There's a magic circle in Dark Age of Man that we have to accept as a group. And the magic circle is we come together to agree that there will be a camaraderie in how we fairly deal with these situations, etc. But at the same time, I still have to represent, how I think Washburn would respond to something Sylvester has done or says, right? And but I don't know in advance because I have no idea what Brian's going to say to Lord Washburn, kind of thing. So anyway, this session will go down October 22nd. We're not sure what time. We will record it, of course. Dell wants to try to go live. We'll see if it comes off, but I will record it. And I have been looking forward to this session for 2 months since the day after the first session. I've been looking forward to this. So anyway, stay tuned. That'll be Dark Age of Man Chronicle Session 2. We have some very interesting things here. Ethelwald now is suddenly elevated as a prophet, a miracle worker, at least to the peasants. We don't know how that's going to really affect. He doesn't know yet when the rumors get to the Washburns how they're going to perceive his extra spiritual ability, so to speak, or what he has done anyway as a right. Okay, so that's going to be fascinating. Vidar again is probably Vidar is the biggest unknown, right? He was the most affected in the first session by both the death of his family that he set up, right? I did not do that. He set that situation up for his character. But then he was gravely wounded in the first 5 minutes of the session. The wolves almost killed him. And that kind of set Vidar into a holding pattern to heal. Because again, our game requires if you're dying, that you must get rest. You're in a way out of narrative for a minute and a half, right? So, and then Sylvester and in the nature of Sylvester's gig in the world, and Ethelwald just got here, and what Ethelwald's done is affecting Ethelwald and what they're expecting of him to do to convert pagans. But Sylvester and the nature of his job and the nature of his responsibilities has put Sylvester in a very, very active and very cool situation in that he's doing his job. He's acting in the best interest of what he thinks is right and wrong. But at the same time, what he's doing could be perceived, depending on how things go, a particular way. And so I'm looking so forward to this next session. So anyway, I think I pretty much got all that right. I think I'm up to speed. I might watch some of the old session. Again, I don't want to go in with too much information. We need to know where we're at. We need to remember the key reasons why the NPCs exist. And I was going to talk about these, by the way. I might as well pull it up. So we have some new things here, right? We have we now know for sure that Sylvester is the head scout for the army. He has basically rangers and wardens, young wardens under him. We know that Ethelwald is what he's become, and a vigilante. Vidar, in a way, is being perceived now as a vigilante. Well, we know that we have an 11-year-old Henry, who's Ethelwald's acolyte aide. We have Rolf and Marcus, who were two soldiers, apprentices under Sylvester. We have Jules. He owns the Blackleaf Inn, and he is a pagan who has been feeding peasants out the back door with stolen food supplied by, yes, you guessed it, Sylvester. It's taking money from Lord. It's taking funds and food from the Washburns, right? We have Martin, a 30-plus-year-old pagan who has abandoned Washburn Arms. He was the proprietor of Washburn Arms. He is the pagan who is in cahoots with Jarek, the druid, pagan druid that Sylvester, in a way, has taken into custody. And then we've learned of a Jarek who is a druid priest leading a pagan army. Or again, how big an army, nobody knows. They haven't had a chance to investigate any of that. They did get a large wagon of food that was enough food to feed an army. So they know it's got to be more than 10 people or so, right? And then we have Maya and Barbara, the wolfhounds of Sylvester. So these things have been learned. Sylvester, Marcus, and Martin are the only people who know of Jarek, right? So Dell's character would not know of Jarek. No one else knows of Jarek except Marcus, who witnessed the conversation, and Martin, who is, Sylvester's taken into custody, and of course, Sylvester. And that's kind of the big deal there. I think that's kind of brings us all up to date. There's been no other new NPCs introduced yet. The rest of the NPCs, they already know and are already on the board still. The Washburns, Wesweld, the oldest son, the heir apparent, his dog Prince, his wolfhound Prince, which is from the same breed as Sylvester's family. They breed wolfhounds, and the heir's dog Prince is a wolfhound from Sylvester's family stock. The second son, Connor, the oldest daughter, Sarah, the youngest daughter, Joy. We have the man-at-arms, John of Dredge. We have the children's bodyguard, George of Dredgewater. We have, and George of Dredgewater. We have Beatrice the Ward. That was Katie's character in the first local session. We have Zebit, who was Beatrice's guard. That was Josh's character, a 17-year-old who was basically befriended Beatrice and was watching Beatrice's back. We have Wilcox. That was Brian's. Excuse me. Wilcox was Phil's character, the Tanner, 26-year-old. Again, these guys are now all NPCs. We now, of course, have met the people that we've actually talked to and met. Man-at-Arms are highlighted in dark now for the group. They know the bold means that they've actually talked to these individuals and they've made deals with these individuals, or they've been given orders by these, whatever. We also know that Father Falcone, they've met him at the head of the Dredgewater Church. And then the rest of them are, and then of course, highlighted are our characters. And so this is our cheat sheet. It keeps them up to speed as to what the perception is. Sylvester's right now seen as the head scout. Brother Ethelwald wasn't seen as the Inquisitor priest that was brought from London. Now that title might change to prophet and miracle worker. And then, of course, Vidar Vawat is known among the villagers as a vigilante, ? And again, this is how when they earned repute, this is kind of what they were doing when the repute occurred. Okay. So you can see how they can kind of get reputations as, an Inquisitor. He came in here as an Inquisitor from London to turn people. Now they've witnessed that he's a prophet, etc. Or at least they might think so. And then, of course, Vidar was just some farmer down the road who now they all know has been hanging out with and leading, giving orders to a small vigilante group. Even if all he did was say, "Follow me," right? This is how reputations are born, and those reputations can be good or ill. So that's kind of where we're at. That's our cheat sheet. I think they have these documents. I will double check with the guys. Anyway, so fun. I love this, and I cannot wait to do this again with Brian, Sam, and Dell. It's our game. We've worked our butts off on it. At some point, we will have the book done and available. We're not in a hurry on this deal. Fortunately, the PDF book is available. So for those who want to play and read and know what the heck we're doing, that's fine. But the book itself will be available at some point. We're in no hurry. Anyway, so thank you for watching. Good day.